First one, your position on parkland repurposing, including needing voter approval. Second one, in 2008, Ann Arbor voters approved a charter amendment to require a vote of Ann Arbor voters if parkland sale is proposed. Do you support another charter amendment to close the loophole to prevent lease and non-park use of parkland? Why? And how do you feel about Proposal Q? Am I reading that right? Proposal Q, Parkland Proposal by Jane Lum, Monday night. I assume that's related. I don't know. Thank you. Okay. Should council obey the letter and spirit of the city charter, protection of parkland, or override the charter when the majority is determined to accomplish its agenda? Is anyone object to combining all four of those into one question? Any objection? I see no objection. I see one objection.
I would like the last one to be held separate.
The last one will be separate. Seeing that objection, I will hold that one separate. So I'll ask that one after this. Okay, so how do you feel about Proposal Q? Do you support another charter amendment to close the loophole to prevent the lease and non-park use? And your position on repurposing, including needing voter approval? Chuck, I think you lead off.
Thank you. So, yeah, this has been one of the big issues in this year, and we're seeing it a lot in the news, we're seeing it a lot in the discussion. I think it's a really important one. I support good public involvement when we're making decisions on parkland. So, for example, if the Federal Rail Administration recommends the Fuller Road site for a rail station, I think that should go to a popular vote. I don't think our current, one of the questions was about the letter of the law. I don't think the letter of the law requires it, but I think the spirit of the law does. In terms of the proposal to require a popular vote before any long-term lease or repurposing of parkland, I think the spirit of that resolution is an important one, and I support the spirit. The particular language of it, I still have some questions about that. Let me tell you this, you don't want an elected official who's making up their mind before they've gotten all the information. And I'll be honest, I'm still researching this issue. The questions I have are, one question, I'd like to hear what the Parks Advisory Committee says on this and get their input. The second question is, the proposal talks about repurposing and long-term leasing. I'd like to get a better understanding of what is and is not included in that. If right now, for example, we have a concession stand in Gallup Park, it's a great thing. People drop off their canoes or they pick up their canoes, they can get a coffee, they can get a Zingerman's baked good. I think that adds to the functionality of the park. If there were a proposal to have a similar concession stand on another park, would that be considered a long-term lease or a repurposing? Would that require voter approval? Or likewise, in Traverse City, you go up by the bay there, they have a bike rental right there by the waterfront. I believe it's privately run. If a company approached us to say, hey, we'd like to do bike rentals at the Gallup Park Canoe Livery, we've got this mixed-use trail there, would that be considered repurposing and require a vote? These are the kinds of questions that I still have about the resolution that I need to answer before I could say, yes, this wording is wording I support, or no, this wording I don't support. But that concept of these are our public parks, these are public lands, they serve a public good and they deserve a public process is a strong principle and one that I do support.
I'm already on record as supporting a charter change to prevent leasing and repurposing without a public vote. I agree that you want to be sure you don't have unanticipated consequences, and I think that's a matter of tweaking the language to make sure that such things as appropriate concession activities that we would all agree serve a legitimate park purpose are not prohibited. You know, bike rental might be a good example. That I will leave to the lawyers and the people who are currently working on formulating the exact language. The parks are a public trust, and if you lived in Ann Arbor for a while, you know that the history of many parks is the accumulation of citizen effort, often private citizen investment in achieving each park. Each park is actually a historic marker of citizen involvement. And of course, our parks are very critical to our quality of life, both in terms of their preserving natural communities, their environmental impact, you know, in cooling, water permeation, air cycling, and so forth. I mean, we have many reasons that we support our parks, and I really don't think getting too legalistic with this particular charter amendment is needed if we just make sure we don't have unanticipated consequences.
All right, would either of you like, Chuck, would you like a minute to come back? And Vivienne, would you like another minute?
I'm not going to rebut myself.
Okay, probably wise thing. The people who asked the 3 questions, are you happy?
No.
Sorry?
No.
Would you take the, over there?
I don't need, I've got a teacher's voice as well.
Okay.
I'm Jack.
Here, raise your hand and
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me?
yeah.
Thank you. All
Oh,
right.
can anybody not hear her? Please raise your hand. Okay, we have one person can't hear.
I'm kidding.
Okay, he's kidding.
Yes,
I'll get you later.
All right.
Go ahead.
I was involved in the Huron Hills Golf Course issue, and I am sorry to disagree with both candidates. I think we need the amendment because of the ethics of some of the members of City Council if we don't get the right people in. There was a done deal with Miles of Golf, and because of the efforts of the Huron Golf Course Committee, of which I was a member, we were able to squelch it because of community input and community support. If the community members had not spoken up, we would have Miles of Golf and the Huron Hills Golf Course, and we would not even, it would not even be in existence. I would like to believe that everybody has the best interests of our city at heart, but it is obvious from watching City Council in action as it currently consists and exists, that that is not the case, which is why I think it must go to the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, would either of you like a minute at this point to address her concerns?
I don't know what the conflict is with what you just said and what you heard me say, but I tried to say I support the charter amendment, which would require a public vote.
So this is one of those things where also why I want to do more research on the issue. My understanding from Councilwoman Briere, one of the sponsors of the amendment, her comments at the last council meeting is that that kind of privatization would not be considered a change in use, and so I'm not sure if that would be would trigger the charter amendment or not. So I can double check on that, but that's the kind of question that I'm still, I support the concept, I'm just trying to make sure we get the details right.
Okay, I'm going to go to the separated question now, which is pretty similar. Should the council obey the letter and spirit of the city charter, protection of parkland, or override the charter when the majority is determined to accomplish its agenda?
The charter is the charter, and the council has to obey the charter. Now, when you get into spirit, that's hard to define sometimes. Certainly, if I were on council, I would try to obey what I perceived as the intent or spirit, but I would certainly obey what the language said.
Yeah, I agree with Vivienne on this one. The letter obviously needs to be obeyed. The spirit is something that is difficult sometimes to interpret and to maintain. I'm certainly not, on federal issues, I'm not a strict constructionist saying that we have to mean exactly what the founders meant on issues but where we see this come up currently, we see things like the Fuller Road station. Again, I don't think it's within the letter of the charter to require a vote, but I do think it's within the spirit, and that's why I support having a vote if the Federal Rail Administration selects the Fuller Road site, or any parkland site for a proposed train station.
Vivienne, would you like a minute to rebut? Chuck, I assume you don't want to rebut yourself. Rita, was that your question? Are you happy?
That was not my question.
That was not your question. Oh, whoever had the question.
Okay, all right. The reason for the question is that when...
Could you speak louder?
Okay, louder!
Yes.
All right, the reason for the question is that in 2008, when the charter amendment was put on the ballot, the Sierra Club, members of the Sierra Club, tried to fix the amendment because they recognized the loopholes that were in it. And the mayor and the council majority flat out refused to put that change of language in there that would have protected parks from repurposing and leasing, okay? So this was actually a very cynical gesture on the part of council and mayor at that time. So this is really a question about, you know, knowing the history of this, knowing that the voters of this town actually thought they were protecting parkland when we passed this amendment to our charter. In this case, will you obey the spirit, the intent of the voters?
Okay. Would either of you like a minute to address that? Response.
So I haven't tracked that particular discussion. I do think that the amendment as passed does protect parkland. We've identified a place where it may need to be strengthened. But what that amendment did is avoids what happened in, I forget if it was Ferndale, I believe it was Ferndale or Royal Oak, where a parcel was rezoned and then sold. That was a particular case that we saw in another Michigan community. We recognized we didn't want that to happen here and passed an amendment that prevented that from happening. So it does provide additional protection. And this question of, and I think as we both said, what was the spirit? I can't interpret what everybody's spirit was when they voted for it, but on these issues that we're seeing now, I have told you where I stand, and I think, and so I don't need to repeat it again.